Hello everybody, I hope everyone's really well. I want to kind of summarize progesterone in this video. I recently had a conversation with Dr. Michael Platt on progesterone, which was probably my most popular episode so far on the podcast, so thank you all for your support. Dr. Platt is one of the leaders in the world of progesterone, and his name is well known throughout the health industry, especially nutrition and holistic health. But I'd also done across my Instagram and Facebook platforms, and even in the podcast, a lot of posts and content recently on the female hormones, on ovulation, on balancing hormones, and on progesterone. Now, I want to summarize it here so you really kind of understand this. And I'm going to give you some solutions as well. So progesterone is, in my opinion, our most important hormone. It is our hormone of vitality and sanity. Those are really the two words that I would tie into progesterone. Without progesterone, you are going to feel rubbish. You really are. Low progesterone causes so many issues. Anxiety, adrenaline dominance being top. Adrenaline, for those of you who don't know, and Dr. Platt spoke about this in the podcast episode, but I don't think we were too clear on what adrenaline was. Adrenaline is one of our stress hormones. So normally we get adrenaline and then we get our cortisol. When you've got adrenaline dominance, it's like you're always wired, you're always going, you can't shut your brain off, you constantly have adrenaline running as your fuel all the time. So you become adrenaline dominance, and this is kind of where we start looking at like type A personalities and different character traits, ADHD, ADD, creative type people, entrepreneurs, like highly driven, highly wired people, even OCD people. So that's adrenaline. When you're lying in bed at night and you can't turn your brain off, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep, you're staring at the ceiling and you're praying to the good Lord above, please let me fall back asleep. That's adrenaline. You wake up in the morning, you've got the jitters, that's adrenaline. And adrenaline is a driver for anxiety. But when you have low progesterone, you also have lots of other symptoms. So you got the anxiety, adrenaline, you got the sleep issues. You find it hard to wind down and relax. If you take a few days vacation, even over Christmas, you may find that you actually don't get into that restful state or into vacation mode until day 3 into the vacation, because it takes that long for your body to like unwind. You'll also have issues with PMS, even fertility. Your period can be heavier. You'll get more frequent bleeds. You will have weepiness, irritability, emotional, very heavy bleeds. When you have low progesterone, it then can push you into the category of estrogen dominance or high estrogen, because at that stage, it's not that you have higher estrogen as people think, like, oh, I'm estrogen dominant, I've loads of estrogen. It's actually the estrogen in the ratio to the progesterone. So we want the ratios balanced, but if your progesterone just drops through the floor, well, your estrogen is going to be higher. Whether or not the number is in the normal range, it's still higher in comparison to progesterone. So that puts you in the estrogen or estrogen, depending on where you're from, estrogen dominance category. Along with this low progesterone, you're going to have mood disorders, not just like the anxiety, irritability. You're going to feel low. You're going to almost feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm like clinically depressed. You're going to have increased craving. You're going to have slower metabolism. Your thyroid's going to be slower. Slow thyroid and low progesterone, they generally go in hand. And guess what? When the thyroid slows down, the adrenals take a hit too. So these are almost like, at this time of the year, the 3 hocus pocus sisters. They go hand in hand, for those of you watching this at a later date or mid-October now. So these really go hand in hand, and you know what happens when the adrenals get hit, you know what happens when the thyroid gets hit. So low progesterone has been correlated to these issues, but also that lower body temperature, that slower metabolism, fertility issues, huge, low libido, like low progesterone literally affects all aspects of your life, because not only of these symptoms but also because of how it influences the stress hormones, and you'll find it very hard to get out of the stress state. And you know, the more you're in the stress state, the easier it is to give in to these cravings. And even if you don't give in to these cravings, the easier it is to put on weight. And now a lot of these issues, and even the ones Dr. Platt listed in the podcast, like these are the issues that people come to me with all the time, like all the time. That's why I think that episode and this video is so relevant, not just for a small category of women, for every woman. Every woman. This information is so important. Like, I constantly get women, they're emotionally distraught, their PMS, their menses is horrible, they're not sleeping, they have no energy, they keep gaining weight, they feel rubbish, bowels are causing issue. Well, guess what? If you've low progesterone and low thyroid, you're going to have bowel issues. One of the top signs of hypothyroidism is constipation, so you got slower transit time. Everything slows down. Everything slows down. You're going to have higher instances of inflammation. Like, it's a disaster. This is why I think progesterone is the most important hormone for women, like so important, especially because so many women are having mental health issues, and so many women think, oh, there's something wrong with me. I'm going to go to the doctor. I think I have ADD. I think I have ADHD. I've got OCD. And it could be that you're just wired all the time because you have this adrenaline all the time. So what would cause this? Well, there's genetics. If your mom, if your grandmother had adrenaline issues for whatever reason, you're going to inherit some of that, unfortunately. Especially, I would postulate that at higher dosages, if your mom was very stressed and full of anxiety and adrenaline during pregnancy, a lot of that will pass to the fetus. Like, it will. Genetics do. There's a lot of genetics that are not definitive, and then there's some that we have no control over. That's going to happen whether we like it or not, and this is one of them. Diabetes. If you have genetic trait for diabetes, that doesn't mean you're going to get it. But if you have genetic traits for the adrenaline response, chances are you're going to get that. And you could try and manage it. But what else would cause adrenaline? Well, there is personality types. They can be just higher adrenaline, higher driven, higher wired people. Or there's lifestyle and self-infliction of adrenaline. Not that it's a choice, it's inflicted by the environment and how we live nowadays. Stress is a huge factor when it comes to adrenaline. Obviously, if we're always, every day, I said this to a client yesterday, like, your body thinks you're running from a dinosaur every single day. You are just wired. And it is, when we look at it, it's her job, it's family issues, it's running around after the kids all the time. They're going to 3 or 4 different after school, weekend, morning activities, and she's just go all the time. And then there's the pressure of, oh, I have to eat healthy and I have to take care of myself and I have to do this, and like that chronic cycle, repetitive day in, day out of stress and not taking care of yourself properly and running around everywhere like a headless chicken, that is going to keep you in that chronic stress state, and it's going to keep the adrenals pumping out adrenaline, and of course, adrenaline's sister, cortisol. They're going to keep going. So that's going to affect the adrenaline, but also the progesterone, because, not to hop around too much, I've spoken about this a lot. I have audio clips. I have an article on my website, shemainesmodelhealth.com, discussing this. It's in my master's guide. When you have a lot of this stress, you will have the cortisol steal happening. Another name for cortisol steal is pregnenolone steal or progesterone steal. It's where cortisol, your stress hormones, are stealing basically the building blocks for your sex hormones. And if you're constantly stealing these building blocks for your sex hormones, you're not going to be making your sex hormones. You're not. So that's important to understand. I like to term it more the cortisol steal to help people understand. Like, you could probably call it the stress steal. It's stealing from your hormones. Stress is stealing your sex hormones. That's how that works. So then you got the low progesterone. You're just feeling rubbish all around. There's a couple of ways that we can address this, but I suppose it's important to look at, like, back to the low progesterone aspect. If you've got all this adrenaline, yes, you've got the cortisol steal happening. So that's low progesterone right there. And that stress as well doesn't have to be from running around like a headless chicken, like I just said. You could be a single person, no kids, and still experience this because you could be fighting a chronic infection all the time. You could be constantly taking medication or antibiotics. They will cause a stress response. You could be overtraining and undereating calories, undereating carbs. We have seen through the research this will cause low progesterone. Maybe you're not ovulating for whatever reason. You're overtraining, overexercising, you're undereating, your body doesn't feel it's safe to reproduce or ovulate right now. If you don't ovulate, you will not make progesterone. The majority of our progesterone is made in the ovaries once the egg has been released. We get a little bit of progesterone made from the adrenals, but it's almost irrelevant. The key factor is ovulation in this cycle here. So you look at, well, what's stopping ovulation? There could be a lot of things there. So we've got age, of course. As a woman ages, even from the age of 35 onwards, you start to see these hormonal changes, and women might not be ovulating, even though many of us think, well, perimenopause is not really till late 40s. Like, I'm totally fine, I'm in my mid 30s. These hormonal changes generally start after the age of 35, and you may not notice it like in your face symptoms like you would when you're deep into perimenopause, but you're totally going to have these changes. And maybe you haven't noticed, but there's a few months you're not ovulating, so you're not getting that progesterone boost. So maybe that month you're gaining weight easier. Maybe that month your sex drive is lower. You're more irritable. You're more weepy. You snap at people faster. And that can happen. And in some women, it can start happening earlier. Like, there's the genetic factor in there in regards to like perimenopause and menopause, and when your mom started to go down that path as well, that will influence when you're going to go down. So we've got the age factor and then the ovulation factor, not just the perimenopause aspect where we start to totally not like ovulate, and then eventually there's no more ovulation, there's no eggs left. That's where the progesterone has just gone through the floor. There's also there's another condition called luteal phase defect, and this will affect some women in the second half of their cycle. Even though they ovulate, the ovaries they have a defect where they're not making enough progesterone as well. And your doctor could diagnose this. You could ask them to check. So you are ovulating, but you're just not making enough progesterone. And you compound that with whatever your lifestyle is, exercising F45 6 days a week, calorie restriction because you're trying to lose weight, but you're not losing weight. Like, there's a whole big picture that goes on here. So we've got the age, we've got the perimenopause, we've got the stress, we've got like being a woman, we've got the low thyroid. If you have low thyroid as well, because it is a stress response, that can prevent ovulation as well. But low thyroid hormone and low progesterone generally go hand in hand. And then there's another hormone, prolactin. Prolactin is prolactation. It's the hormone that helps with pregnancy. If that hormone is too high, and again, your doctor can test for this, Prolactin in very high levels will prevent progesterone from being produced in the correct amounts. So you want to look at that as well. Again, this is where people should be more knowledgeable and know what to ask their doctors for when they are going in for these hormone or blood panels, because there's like these tests or these tiny things that are being overlooked, but they're not actually tiny. They could be playing an important part in how you're feeling and why you're feeling so rubbish and lethargic and have no energy. So sleep is another one. I talk about sleep a lot. Not only does low progesterone and adrenaline affect sleep, but some people just have bad habits when it comes to sleep. They don't prioritize sleep. They're wired watching TV before bed. They eat a lot of sugar before they drink. And if you eliminate all of that, then they sleep like a rock star. Like some people, it is just self-inflicted. So sleep, my clients know me well for saying this. Sleep is number one for so many reasons. Don't get me started. Maybe I'll do a master class on sleep, because you could just list, be here all day. Now, progesterone isn't just relevant for us women. It's relevant for, as Dr. Platt mentioned, men, because men and women have the exact same hormones, just in different levels. Kids, teenagers, young women who may be 20, 21, 23, 24, and we think, oh my God, she's in her prime. She's got it all ahead of her. Like, she's got her whole life ahead of her. No, you can start seeing hormonal changes there, and progesterone is very relevant to these younger women and younger girls, because you look at the demands society puts on them, us nowadays, the expectations can be very stressful. It can be overwhelming. I get people message me about their kids all the time having severe anxiety and overwhelm, and they're upset. And I'm like, some progesterone here is going to really help that child. And progesterone is very, very safe. Someone messaged me the other day, and it was my friend Catherine, she won't mind me using her name, and she, I think, mentioned she put some progesterone on the inside of her dog's ears, saw an immediate change. She also used it on her husband and her daughter, who is, I believe, 12 or 13. Immediate change. Like, progesterone is very, very safe. But what we're looking at really is boosting the progesterone to help you feel better, to help you just chill out, feel more full of vitality, feel like you're sane and you're not losing your mind, and just enjoy life a lot more. So that's what we want to do. We want to boost progesterone. There's many ways that you can boost progesterone. So let's start with the food. I did share, it's on my website and it's in my Facebook biohacking group, and I'm happy to send it to people or email it to people. I have just a small PDF with a list of these foods and nutrients have been shown to help boost progesterone. I shared a study the other day that showed us how vitamin C, specifically ascorbic acid, but natural vitamin C is amazing too. You should never skip one for the other. Have both. Ascorbic acid helped to boost progesterone significantly in people with low progesterone and luteal phase defects. So my recommendation has always been for a long, long time that my clients are taking 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, perfectly safe. And because vitamin C is water soluble, whatever your body doesn't want or use, it's just going to pee it out. So, and that's on top of making sure you get your fruit and veg and all. Again, your body knows what's what. It'll pee it out if it doesn't need it. So vitamin C is great. There's a lot of food. Dark chocolate can be helpful. That's individual though, because some people caffeine, some people dopamine. So we got to watch for that. But there's a whole list. I'm happy to send it to you. Again, it's over on my website under low progesterone. Under the education tab, I have an article on low progesterone. You should find it there, but you can reach out to me if you don't. Then we look at herbal and supplemental aids. There's so many. It's amazing. There's so many that people don't realize. So wild yam, which you can get in tea form or you can get in supplement form. You can get Young Living, they do a progesterone roll-on oil that's based in, I think it's wild yam and lavender and something else. That's great. Um, Dr. Platt's topical cream, topical progesterone cream, Life Choice, and a few others. Um, Actually, I don't know if Life Choice uses wild yam, but Dr. Platt's topical progesterone, 5% progesterone cream, they source the progesterone from wild yam. I'll have to double check if Life Choice is based out of Cochrane here in Alberta. Hopefully have them on the podcast soon. I'll have to double check with them if they use wild yam. But otherwise, we've got chaseberry, also known as Vitex. If maybe you just need a little hit, you could get the chaseberry tea, have that every evening before bed. If you need a bit more extra help, you would get the supplement form, which is Vitex. It's very affordable, and you can take that daily. Men sometimes will take it in the evening. Depends on your goals, but that can help to increase low progesterone. Rose hips and bioflavonoids can be helpful in this area as well. Let me see what else. I know a lot of people, since my episode with Dr. Platt, they did order a lot of the topical progesterone cream. And that's awesome because when you use topical and even the roll-on oil from Young Living, what happens is it goes straight into the bloodstream. Like, it doesn't need to go anywhere near the liver. It gets absorbed through the skin straight into the bloodstream, and you have progesterone receptors all over the body, just like thyroid receptors all over the body on every cell. So when you can get this progesterone directly into the bloodstream, now it's more freely available to be transported to the different receptors and where it needs to attach and start making you feel better. The thing with supplemental or taking oral progesterone is because it has to be metabolized by the liver. It doesn't always turn out to be efficacious, as Dr. Platt had mentioned, that the progesterone, generally it's prometrium, doesn't attach to the receptor sites on the cells. So even if you start taking prometrium and you get your blood taken 3 months later and you see, oh, well, my serum progesterone levels, my blood progesterone levels have increased. They look great now. I'm in normal ranges, but I'm still having all these symptoms and I feel rubbish and I'm not sleeping and my metabolism's slower and blah, blah, blah. That's because that progesterone is not attaching to the receptors within the tissues, within the cells. It's staying in your bloodstream. So what you're seeing is, just to put it bluntly, is like free floating progesterone in your bloodstream. It's not attaching to the receptors, therefore you're not getting the benefits that you should of progesterone. So that's almost a false result. It's like, haha, just kidding, you result, but you don't understand, so you think the progesterone's okay, so let's just leave it at that, but you still feel rubbish. That, I think, is the best way to understand it. Whereas when you do topically, and not just Dr. Platt, like many thousands of doctors all over the world know that topical application is the best way for us to get the progesterone in. So, yeah, those would be my top, along with the progesterone boosting. And then, of course, you've got, like, some people are going to be extra sensitive to caffeine. You might need to limit that, restrict it to 1 cup early in the day. Alcohol, some women need to eliminate alcohol completely to start balancing their hormones. Alcohol does more damage than people think, and that is, yes, your 1 glass of wine a week could be doing more damage than you realize, because wine does activate not wine per se, alcohol activates a stress response. Alcohol affects the detoxification pathways, but alcohol also will impair detoxification of hormones. So that one, and some women who have a lot of hot flashes and sleep disturbances and just like feeling rubbish overall, when they eliminate that 1 glass, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that one glass of wine was doing so much to me. Like, I feel so much better. My hot flashes have almost vanished. So, um, as much as people don't like to hear it, sometimes that's the case. Then there's also the stress management, of course. Um, Look, prioritize me time, prioritize self care time, do stuff that makes you happy. And I'm really starting to realize this now. I run my own business, I work with many, many people, I have a lot of things going at one time. But I've really started to say, you know what, it's okay. I can step back, I can take it. I can close shop earlier in the evening. I can take an extra day off. Like, people will be okay. I need this. You know what? Like, I'm just going to take an hour right now and go out to the garden and just do what I enjoy, tend to my roses, or I'm going to do some baking. Like, it's okay to stop and just do what you want to do. And that's it. Don't be doing what your kids want you to do, your husband, your boss, your friend. Just stop and do what you want to do. You know what? I don't want to do anything. Going to put on Netflix and I'm going to watch an episode of The Witcher. And after that, then I'll come back to everything. So not enough of us prioritize this self-care and taking care of yourself. And like, I don't like to say so much like the self-care aspect, because women feel guilty around that terminology, and it's been thrown around so much. And yes, like, it's valid, but I'd prefer to say, just take care of yourself. Just do what you want to do and do what makes you happy. That's probably the best stress management tool out there. Watch funny movies, read good books, sing till your heart's out, like, go enjoy nature, have sex with your husband, eat the treats in moderation, in balance, not moderation, because I always speak about balance. Like, just take the bath, light the candles, ignore everyone else, just do what you want to do. That's the best advice. Because stress, as I think a lot of people are starting to pick up on, that's going to be the biggest obstacle when it comes to driving up adrenaline and pushing down progesterone. Like, overstimulation. Don't be getting blue light exposure before bed. That's crazy. Don't be running around like a blue ass fly if you can prevent it. Like, I know we all have different schedules, a different lifestyle, but just sometimes we have to take a step back and say, okay, well, what can I pull back on and what do I not need to do? What can wait? Like, people need to slow down. We live in a highly driven society. You can still be successful if you take breaks now and then and do what makes you happy. And that's really important to understand, because people come to me and they want to be healthy now and they want to get their health in order now. And I'm like, okay, that's great and all, but do you want this for just now, for just this year? Or do you want this for the rest of your life? Do you want this for the future? Because if you don't learn these skills and slow down and find what makes you happy, there's going to be a ripple effect into the future, and you're probably not going to like what it is. You can't exercise 6 days a week and not sleep properly and undereat. You can't burn the candles at both ends. And when I was growing up, that was like, you're going out partying at night and then you're trying to work or study during the day. You're burning candles at both ends, or you're staying up late studying and like you're burning candles at both ends. Now it's like, no, you can't exercise 6 days a week at 45 and also have a strenuous job and not be sleeping properly. Like, you can't do that. You could do 3 or 4 workouts and then prioritize your sleep with that extra time and like just start taking care of yourself. And I guarantee you, because I do this all the time, you will start to see results. You will get more results when people are afraid to rest and slow down, because they don't think like, oh my God, I can't miss that workout. I have to keep moving. I need to lose weight. Watch what happens when you start to slow down and rest and recover and take care of yourself properly. All of a sudden the weight starts to drop and your muscles start to grow, your hair grows, you feel way better. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, but I hope this summary was helpful of progesterone. Also, one last thing, we are the people we surround ourselves with. So really be careful with who you hang out with or spend your time with. if you spend your time with a lot of people who are in negative space a lot and they're very dramatic and they're causing you stress, maybe it's time to take a step back. You want to surround yourself with people who know how to take care of themselves. They like to have fun in a balanced way. They like to lift you up and think positive and laugh with you and see you do well. That's important. And one last thing, don't watch horror movies or thrillers. Don't do that. I know a lot of you love it. Come on, though. It's doing more harm than you realize. And I know one person specifically, my sister, rolls my eyes when I say this to her. And I'm like, you need to stop that. She's like, no, it's just TV. It's not doing it. I'm telling you, there is a systemic central nervous system response. There's a brain response. There's a hormonal response. You know that when you watch these horrible horror movies that are getting worse and worse and worse every year, and these thrillers, don't do it. Watch funny stuff. Watch lighthearted stuff. Watch family stuff with your family and laugh and enjoy yourself. Because progesterone is your most important hormone. If you want to feel sane and full of vitality, but also live your life to the most optimal level that you can, you gotta prioritize this hormone. So hopefully all the tips in this, I've covered a lot, have been helpful and given you some direction. Maybe go back, write out some notes. Progesterone, if you've got questions, reach out to me. You can email me. I'll put my email address in the description. You can reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, although I'm not great with Instagram, I'll admit it. Facebook Messenger or email me. I'm pretty good with those. I'm happy to give you more direction and I'm happy to answer your questions. Please share with anyone you feel may benefit from this, not just women. Men too, everyone will benefit from this information because men will experience a lot of these symptoms as well when they have low progesterone. They'll get estrogen dominance, they'll have sleep issues, they'll have anxiety, they'll have thyroid issues. Men will experience this too. Okay, guys, have a great day and I'll chat to you real soon. Bye-bye.